Parker, what's going on, man?
What's up, dude? Good to see you.
It's great to see you, brother. I was telling you right when you hopped on here, you're looking lean, dude.
I
How much
appreciate
weight are
that.
you down? How much weight?
Yeah, starting back in February, and I weighed in at 288, kind of before starting the Kingmaker program with you guys, and I'm 231 now, so that's down, I guess, what, 57 pounds.
And that's in 16 weeks, roughly, right?
Yeah, 16 weeks pretty much to the dot, roughly down 57 pounds, which is unbelievable, man. Crazy.
Yeah, dude. I was telling you that's
Yeah.
tracked. I'm sure we might have somebody else in there, but like actually tracked in 4 months, it's you and Drew are the top two. So we've seen 73 pounds and we've seen 57. There might have been somebody else that snuck in there at some point, but like recently in the last year or two, like it's the second most in 16 weeks. So it's definitely a phenomenal transformation, dude.
Yeah, that's wild. And like we talked about, competitive guys. So I reached out at one point whenever it seemed like the weight was dropping pretty quick, just saying, "Hey, what was the highest total? I'm gunning for it." But no, dude, yeah, unbelievable. And I'm sure we'll dive into it. But yeah, different person today than I was back in February, which is awesome.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. I'm super happy for you, brother. And I guess for you, I think to kind of start diving into it, like, what do you feel like maybe is the difference for you between who you were in February and who you are now here in June?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing is that where I stand today, there's not a doubt in my mind that like I'm not going to be heavier than where I currently am a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So that doubt that when I have lost weight before, kind of through different, whether it's fad diets, whether it's hitting the gym really hard for a couple of weeks, whether it's being super diligent with tracking, the reality is those always came back, and that's because I didn't really have the structure in place, the default actions in place to persist and keep the weight off. And so I think today where I stand is the confidence knowing like I'm not Parker at 280 pounds ever again. I'm not Parker at 250 pounds ever again. Like that, I am the heaviest I am today, and I'm going to keep kind of trimming down because I'm not where I want to be. But I think that's the biggest thing is purely like I it's so simple when we break it down, and like you and I talked about from the beginning, it's not like some secret magic formula. Like at the end of the day, it's a couple basic things where it's weighing yourself every day. That's a way of keeping yourself accountable. It's tracking your food, knowing what you're eating, because that's a way of keeping you accountable. And at the end of the day, the only true way to lose weight, just like we've hashed on, and I've had this talk with patients, is purely to be in a calorie deficit. So it's you have to burn more calories than you ingest. And now it's like it's infuriating hearing some people talk about just whether it's diets, whether it's what to do, whether or not. And it's like at the end of the day, you have to be in an energy negative balance to burn and to lose weight. And so hearing people try and justify it around it, it's like, no, you purely have to be in a caloric deficit. That's the only way to do it. That's the only way. And so I think just reinforcing those simple concepts, and you guys do such a good job of kickstarting us right from the get go, and a lot of intentional follow up within those first few weeks just to make sure, hey, checking in. I know the first few weeks the hardest. Like I'm checking in, just making sure things are doing good, and that was very needed because to go from someone that's almost 290 pounds to now 230 pounds, to that initial shock to your body when you are eating less, you're in a deficit. There's a lot of like, man, I'm freaking hungry. I don't know if I can do this for forever. And it's like, hey, dude, stay the course. Like you're the same as all these other guys. Stay the course. It's going to pay off. And just bit by bit, hopping on a few calls. Unfortunately, with my work schedule, it's a little all over the place, and most of my kind of time to hop on calls was early, and haven't had much time after that. But just the availability for accountability, the availability of you guys to reach out to, that's what keeps the program rolling.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, dude. And yeah, it's
Yeah,
I was just doing a podcast before this with my buddy Peyton, and like the whole thing we were talking about at the end, it was just like calories and calorie deficits and stuff. It's like at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. And there's certainly vehicles out there that can get you into a calorie deficit. Like I'm not going to discredit other weight loss solutions. It's just the place where I have an issue is people fall into this trap of thinking like I lose weight on keto because I'm on keto. And it's like, well, you lose weight on keto because like you're not eating carbs, which is a whole macronutrient group. So chances are you're going to eat less total calories, right? That's why you lose the weight on the keto. It's because it gets you into
sure.
it. So they don't understand that like these different trends and these different solutions, it's like they're just mechanisms that get you to a deficit, but the actual cause is the deficit. And
Right.
however you create that is actually less important. It's just get in it, by any means. And as long as we stay in it, we'll lose weight. And then we can work our way out of it eventually to where it's a little bit more sustainable for you long term. And I guess for you, I know you said you did some stuff before. Could you kind of break down what it was that you maybe tried in the past that wasn't so successful for you?
Yeah. So probably I'm trying to remember now, 6 years or so, give or take 6 years ago, I was about to start med school and kind of had this epiphany moment where it's like, hey, I want to be in the best shape possible before I start med school because I know it's going to be a grind. I know it's going to be hard. And I didn't really have like a true kind of core purpose, I guess, behind that. It was just like, where I'm going to start cutting out all the crap. So it's like stop eating processed foods, primarily stuck to whole foods, lots of protein, lots of chicken. So very similar to now. Track my food pretty diligently. But the kicker is I just like my main and only goal was weight loss. And it wasn't like the habits around it and also how I felt. So like I've always had GI issues. Whenever I eat whole foods, not as much processed stuff, which whenever I'm tracking, I want to make sure I get the most bang for my buck, whether it's protein to calorie ratio, whether it's the most nutrient dense foods. I'm going to eat things that aren't processed so my GI system feels better. I have more energy. So now, whenever I've been going through it and tracking and everything else, the emphasis is not just on the weight loss, but it's how much better I feel. It's how much energy I have for my boys. It's how much better I feel confident around my wife at work, all of those different things. And so before it was similar, but I think it was very much like my goal was weight loss by med school. And so I did it and I achieved that goal, but I never had like the sustainability thought of like, I want to keep it off through med school or I want to. And so I think it was very much like I did a race to a finish line and I got there and I was like, check box and I was pumped. And then it quickly came back on over the next year to 2 years. And that was roughly like 50 pounds. So I lost a lot at that point. But whenever you get to the point of a deficit for that long without a plan on the back end, it's going to come back. And so I think that's the difference now. Whereas I've lost over 50 pounds and I'm like, it's not coming back because I'm going to keep doing the things that I'm doing. And I've done it in a sustainable way. Like you said, I mean, when I first started, I think I was a little shocked. I thought we were going to have like a full out meal plan kind of thing. And I was kind of expecting that. And so it was great kind of culture shock that it's like, no, you're just going to track your food. You're going to know how many calories you're eating and you're going to eat as much protein as possible kind of within that, which has always been easy because I love meat. I love chicken. I love all the different types of primarily protein foods. So it just catered to something I already loved and enjoyed, but it's just emphasizing that more. So I think that's kind of the big difference. Working out was similar. I'm a former college athlete, played college baseball. I've always loved getting in the gym, throwing weights around. But when I was playing, it was always out of a intent to be the best athlete I could be. And so whenever I stopped playing baseball, it's kind of like you have to reshape your mindset. And that's what you guys kind of helped draw out of me was the mindset now is I want to be an example of health and fitness for my boys. Like I have two young kids, two young boys, and I want them to grow up around a dad who's like always grinding. He's in the gym, working out at the home gym. They like see me putting into action. They see me not eating crap and feeling like crap the rest of the day and just developing habits that just become second nature to them through observation.
Yeah.
So
That's killer, man. That's killer. I think the meal plans part is interesting because like a lot of people definitely expect that when you have some sort of weight loss program or fitness coaching program, obviously like we offer, people's gut reaction is like, oh, I'm gonna have a meal plan and a workout plan to a T. And it's like, yeah, we obviously have a custom training plan and we're very, very intentional with the training. But with the nutrition side of things, what we'd actually found historically is the more complex we made it, the worse results people were getting. And the
for
more we
sure.
removed from it, the better because it was more sustainable long term. And so like even when I first got into the world of health and fitness coaching, that was very popular. It was like give your clients a meal by meal plan. And I was like, okay. And so you start doing that, and then you start to see it's just like impractical for most people, right? Most
Right.
people like they're not going to be able to do it, especially somebody like you, where you're in the medical field and sometimes you're working overnight and sometimes you're on call. It's like, how am I going to give Parker a meal by meal plan when he doesn't even know where he's going to be 50% of the time, right? So
Right.
the simplicity of dialing down to calories and protein, obviously from a tactical perspective, was really helpful for you and really beneficial. But I mean,
Definitely.
from everything I'm hearing, brother, I mean, it sounds like the most beneficial part for you was honestly like the psychological side of it and kind of helping you fix the mindset. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. So I think part of it is I've always felt so when I was heavier, I always felt like I was going to lose weight at some point, and I just knew at some point it was going to happen. The difference was at that point, up until then, I'd always been all or nothing. So it was college athlete, pretty ripped, like in shape,
Yeah.
was like performing at a high level, was at a weight that I was comfortable at, and in a kind of positive feedback loop, I would eat better because I wanted to play better. I would work out harder because I felt more energy from eating. And so it was like all in. Baseball stops and it's like kind of all out. Like you don't work out, you still eat like a college athlete, but then you start to enjoy maybe more sugary things, more salty foods, different things like that. And so I was very much on this vicious cycle of either all in or all out. So it'd be like a great month where I'm down 15 pounds, 6 months of not following any protocol, and then gain that back plus 15. And so it was just really the shift in perception of like, this is a program that I'm following and it's a daily habit. The app for me was huge. The fact that you can check boxes, that you can tangibly say, I got my walk in, I hit my food goals, I did my workout, boom, like day's done, check, you feel good about it, and move on to the next day. And so having something like that that just helps keep you, it's another method of keeping you accountable, has been huge. And so the difference in my mindset now is I like every day when I was going through the program, even early when it was a lot harder, when you're really trying to kind of lose those first few pounds, when you're going to lose 25, 30, the psychological mindset of like, no, this is changing my daily habits for the rest of my life, not just like losing weight for 16 weeks. You know, it's like I'm purely becoming a new person and developing the default actions like you guys talk about and the habits that just persist throughout time. So, and like you said, my schedule is nuts. And if anybody has a excuse to say like, oh, I'm too busy, I think I could have probably fallen into that category just with our work schedule. I mean, easy week is 80 hours a week, and I'll routinely work more than that. A lot of nights on call in the hospital where you're not getting great sleep. A lot of times throughout, we don't have like a normal lunch break. So it's like you're kind of rolling from one surgery to the next. And so, really, just being prepared on the front end. So, like the night before, my bag was packed with tons of protein heavy snacks, whether it was protein bars, protein shakes, chicken, whatever it may be, just being prepared. And so, I think that's the biggest mindset shift is like everything I was doing was preparing for my future life day by day by day, rather than just like an end goal of a couple weeks to lose weight.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like the kind of big overall impact then was like looking at it on maybe a longer time horizon than you had in the past.
For sure. Yep.
That makes sense. And I guess for you, like in your mind, I mean, how do you expect this to play out for you? Because I know you still have a few pounds to go. So like, how do you
Yeah.
expect this to play out? Like, do you feel prepared going into that? How do you feel with the weight that you have left to go still?
Yeah, no, definitely. You guys were the biggest, I mean, diving board, jumping board onto like the rest of my life, which is huge. I can't thank you guys enough. Like literally I'm a new person, changed, family dynamic, everything about it. And so now I think you guys gave me the tools and just reshaping the mindset moving forward that it's like, yeah, I can do this moving forward. And I know everyone may not be in that situation, but like you and I have talked about, I have the background in this. We have the same degree, exercise science degree, did a lot of nutrition, a lot of weightlifting, and then all the former athlete stuff. The key was just getting the habits in place. And so I think like you and I talked about moving forward, the intuitive eating aspect of when you get to your ideal goal body weight, which I would ideally love to lose around like 30 more pounds. I think that that's kind of a healthy weight, just back from when I was playing baseball, around 200, give or take. When I find that ideal weight, like you mentioned, kind of set a 5 pound window and give it a shot. Try and eat intuitively for a week, 2 weeks. But if you ever start to get to the end of that tipping scale, start tracking your food again. And so just knowing that now I have barriers in place to kind of keep me on the straight and narrow rather than to go off the rails. And a non-negotiable for me moving forward, because it's so easy, is just weigh myself every morning. Like I literally, when I'm on call, you asked early on in the program, like what's been a hiccup at all. And I was like, honestly, the only thing is I have to bring my scale to work with me. Like, because a lot of times I wake up at the hospital and so I have to weigh, and like going on vacation, pack the scale. We just got back from vacation. I packed the scale. So there's something practical, and that takes 5 seconds when you wake up. But that's something that times when I have kind of gone off the rails and gained a lot of weight, it's you don't weigh yourself for 6, 9 months because you don't want to see what it says. And so an easy accountability measure is step on scale every morning.
Yeah. So many people
Yeah.
overlook that. So many people overlook that. And like, I used to be a guy early in coaching where my perspective was, hey, weigh yourself once a week because you don't want to get overwhelmed and constantly be seeing that number. And then what I learned was, as I had more clients and there was more people and I just got more experience, I realized I was like, weighing yourself once a week is just so bad because there's not data. Like
Right.
there's barely any data. And so somebody will come in and they'll weigh themselves and they're 250, and then a week later they're 251. And it's like, I can't really do much with that.
Yeah,
And if you think about it from a numbers and a statistics perspective, it's like, would you rather have 4 data points a month or 30? I'd always rather have 30.
for
And
sure.
like I used your weigh-in graph in one of the modules, like the expected
Yeah, I
module.
remember watching that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The only reason we were able to go and look at that is because you had daily weigh-ins, right? And you could see
Right.
it's like, okay, here's the stair stepper, right? And you were a guy that was a stair stepper. Some guys are just like straight, like linear up and down. You were a
Yeah,
stair
yeah.
stepper, right? And it makes sense because if you think about how much weight you lost, you were obviously in a massive deficit. So like
Right.
the bigger you go into that deficit, the more it's a stair step. And so the only way we're ever able to see those things is with a daily weigh-in. And so many people overlook it. And, part of it is they don't want to see it. Like that's just reality. But the other part of it is they just don't know how useful it is and how much that helps psychologically. Because most people, man, that are overweight, if I told them to just weigh themselves every single day, they would lose weight. Now, how much you don't really know, but they
Sure.
would absolutely lose it because they would just subconsciously change the way they're behaving, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, brother, I'm glad it all worked well for you, dude. And I think if there's somebody maybe listening to this right now and they resonate with your story and everything you've said so far, why in your mind do you think they should take action and make a change with their weight, with their health?
Yeah. I mean, first and foremost, it's literally life changing. Like when you start getting to the levels of weight that I was at working in the medical field, that comes with a whole host of a whole bunch of kind of metabolic syndrome type things where you're going to kind of get a vicious cycle of maybe type 2 diabetes, heart disease, you're at increased risk of heart attack, stroke, literally things that could take your time away on earth a lot quicker
Yeah,
rather than just taking care of yourself. And so I think first and foremost is that it's life changing from a practical everyday standpoint. Like my confidence is back for the first time in a long time. Like how I carry myself in a t-shirt, how I carry myself in scrubs, and that just carries over into how I interact and with people and how I can serve people and love people well in my job. And at the same time, like my family dynamic, the amount of energy I have, where I used to watch so much TV and you don't realize how much time you waste whenever you're not like applying yourself and doing these things. But now it was non-negotiable. I got home from work, like work out first thing. And my wife was incredible. She encouraged that. She was like, hey, we invested some money in this, so we're going to make sure we get our bang for our buck. And so that was incredible. And we really didn't have to change our family dynamic from an eating standpoint. Because like you said, there wasn't a specific plan that we had to be follow. Like we just had to kind of like adjust as need be that could fit our family dynamic with 2 kids. But yeah, more energy. I mean, I don't know why someone wouldn't. And I get it because I sat there for forever waiting to make a change. But I always think there's going to be an easier time in life to start that. I was a big person that always wants to start on a Monday, or I wanted to have the perfect plan in place before I would start a workout program. And so I would just use that as a basically just to inhibit myself from starting. Like, what do they say? The enemy of good is perfection, or something like that. I probably butchered that quote. But if you try and be perfect rather than just like, no, like move your body today, eat good today, like get to tomorrow and just kind of keep it rolling. So definitely encourage anyone to take a step, and especially guys out there that want to do it with like the faith-based principles that you guys talk about and accountability, because that's something a lot of guys have growing up in sports, but then they get out of sports and they may not have that. And so you guys kind of create that in a different realm for people to kind of just be encouraged and keep moving forward.
Yeah, that's awesome, brother. Well, I appreciate you saying all those nice things, man. And like one thing that tends to happen for a lot of guys that end up doing client spotlight interviews, like the reason they're on a client spotlight interview is because they saw success. And usually you don't see success unless you apply, right? Because
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
there's definitely guys that have joined DK. I'm not afraid to say this on a recording. There's guys that join DK and don't see success, but the one common factor among those guys is they don't apply the information, right? So if you join and actually apply and use the principles, you will see success. And you're a guy that's obviously gone above and beyond with that, which is one of the reasons. I mean, you're one of our biggest transformations within the first 4 months, right? 57 pounds in 4 months is crazy. And it's a testament to how dedicated you were to the process. And ultimately, everything we've talked about here, I could give you all of that. But if you didn't listen and you didn't do it, it wouldn't work. And so
Sure.
the linchpin, and people are always surprised to hear this when they pay for coaching. And like the first thing I tell them, and you know this, like the first thing they do after they purchase and we do an onboard calls, I'm like, hey, dude, you're actually the linchpin here. like surprise. Like you are actually the one that has to execute. And they're like, oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
And so when a guy goes ahead and follows through like you have, like it's just a big testament to how dedicated you were to this process. And yeah, man, I appreciate you doing it, and I appreciate you always being involved in the group and being willing to come and do this. Because I mean, these are the videos that inspire guys to take action at the end of the day. You know, they see other guys doing it, and they see guys that are going to be a part of it with them. So we appreciate you, man, and I really, really just have loved working with you.
for sure, dude. No, I appreciate it, Joey. You guys are great, and like I said, you use the reference, and I like it because I'm a baseball guy. But you guys load the bases, but we still have to get the hit. You know, we still have to hit the grand slam, whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, having as many practical things in place just to create, I guess, get away with barriers and create a path to do just makes it as easy as possible is huge. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, man. Well, dude, thank you for doing this.
Yeah, for sure, Joey.